our second day of budget sessions. We managed to accomplish a lot yesterday, so I don't anticipate this will be a full day. But we'll start the meeting. Item 1, roll call. All members of council are present. Adoption of the agenda. Motion to approve the agenda as presented for the second budget working session for the 2022 budget. Can you move in a seconder, please? Moved by Councillor Tarnowski, seconded by Councillor Saucier. Everybody good with that? Yeah, perfect. Disclosure of pecuniary interest. Seeing none. Item 4, 2022 budget presentation, and we're continuing from yesterday. Madame Joint Committee
Mr. Mayor, maybe we should mention there's no question period at the end?
That's correct. Yesterday we made some changes and took out the question period for both days because we never had a question period at the budget session, so that's removed for today. With that, Monsieur Leduc, Monsieur Godin, we'll let you lead the charge.
Merci, Monsieur Maire. So we leading off from yesterday, we have the public request left, and the council and the community request as well. So this will be at the end of the slide deck, just after slide 150. So it's Schedule B is the list of public requests.
Okay, perfect. I guess the easiest way is probably to go through it like we did last year and just go line by line item and quickly see where council sits on that line item and go from there. First one was a proposal. It was submitted by Tara Shannon. Proposal for the Ontario Music City Strategy to help live music sector in our township recover from the pandemic and stimulate future economic growth as well as opportunities for music creators in the region. Estimated value. There wasn't, if I remember the presentation, there wasn't actual value. It was more looking for staff coordination. Is that correct, Madame Vital? Was that?
Sorry. Good morning, Mr. Mayor and members of council. So if I understood correctly, I think Mrs. Shannon was looking into creating a committee and then
trying
to start this
local artists and start that process.
Yeah. So. And it was addressed two parts of recreation. So I'm not sure if there is an intent from the council to have one of the staff at least to sit on the committee and to create that committee, or just to let them create their own committee and then come back with
I think
like what we do with the flag. Make a presentation.
Monsieur Leduc, would we be throwing this under Parks and Rec, or would it be more economic development? Because it sort of has, like, if I think of the events that are held, like the Orange Fest and stuff in other communities, it's sort of like a tourism type of feel to it.
Well, certainly probably from the planning stage of that, probably the economic development could be the right group to look at this.
Okay.
If it gets more operational, if it gets more in place, and then we get to see
where it goes,
how it goes, then maybe the department gets involved here, but maybe that's where we should launch it first and see where that happens.
Okay. At this point in time, there's no request for funds, so it's really to see if we want to support this initiative. Councillor Saucier?
Well, I'm sure Tara has thought of this, but also partnering with like Russell Music Academy and the local theater as well, because it's all musicians and what have you. So those are groups that could network to do something like this. And because I know there's also open mic still going on in Russell. It's like a moving stage. So. There's lots of ways to connect and get that started.
Okay, perfect. For budget discussions, it's really it would fall in operational staff time to have these type of meetings, so it doesn't really affect the budget. Conseiller Luxon?
Non, puis je pense que par après, s'il y a un comité à aller, oui, c'est parc et récréation et culturel. Ça fait pour ça que je pense que ça vient après ça avec le comité à la civile, mais comme ils disent, former un comité. Je voudrais aussi suggérer qu'ils contactent la Maison des Arts aussi, faut qu'ils travaillent avec, pour qu'il y ait Henri, Russell, pour que ce soit inspecté.
Okay, perfect. So maybe for staff perspective, Monsieur Luzic, go ahead.
Again, talking level of service, Mr. Mayor, this is not core business of township. To get involved here might mean more resources. It might be us to facilitate, but not to get involved in trip planning. I think it's leading, where the discussion is leading, if we get involved.
I think it is more facilitating, helping them organize a little bit, and then if there is a request for more from township, then we'll have that discussion at that point in time.
Yes, I think that needed to be clear.
Yeah, definitely. Okay, so I think it will just be staff reach back out to Madam Tara Shannon and say, we're willing to, supply space and coordinate things like that, but, and see where it goes. Okay, perfect. Next request was a splash pad proposal for Russell. I know the discussion has been there. If I remember well, the one in Barn was 100% donated from Club Optimist.
Yes, that's right, Mr. Mayor. It was all donated by the Optimist Club. There was always also a portion of Trillium Foundation grant, and the land was given by the municipality. But I would say 3/4, because they spent almost $180,000 on the splash pad. The Optimist Club fundraised the funds for that. So this is what we've been, maybe suggesting to those groups. That they start some fundraising, and then the township could maybe look into getting another grant or something like that.
Mr. Godin, if I remember well, we do have a line item in the budget called matching grants, matching funds. Would that be something that would be available? For example, if the group raised $20,000, obviously it would be a multi-year project, but if they raise funds, we'd be able to put some funds to match whatever they raise. Is that a possibility?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. So we do have a matching fund reserve that has $100,000 in it.
Okay.
Typically, we use it to match when we're applying for grants and when we're waiting for responses and we're not sure we're going to go forward with the project. If we do have a positive response, then we match it with the municipal share with that grant. When we do use that fund, usually we'll be reimbursing it in the year's budget just to top it up back to $100,000.
Do we know how much have we used over the last few years in that line item?
Over the last 5 years, I think we've used it for 3 or 4 projects. And there was one in EcoDev, and I'm not sure if it was in Parks and Rec. I don't remember specifics of those projects, but we have used it, and we've been able to replenish it to this full balance of $100,000.
Perfect. The other question or the other discussion will happen is once we move forward with the rec complex, what are we going to do with the existing pool? Right? It could be something for the Village of Russell. We could use the equipment there, turn it into a wading pool, so you'd have like a splash pad, a wading pool, and then the full complex pool. So, I think at this point in time, this was a member of the community that made this request, but I don't think she's formed an organization and started fundraising or anything at this point in time. So unless council says they want to put funds aside in the budget for this, I don't think we're at that stage. Want to say it, son?
No, I would just contact her and mentioning that she might contact the King Club, because it's one of the clubs in Russell that is working mostly with kids and raising a lot of money. And that's why this year don't put any money in it. But as it was done in Ambram, that the municipality was part of the fundraising, just maybe for issuing a receipt or adding for the land. So things like that. But
Conseiller Laurent?
Yeah, I've actually spoken to Mrs. Murphy about this, and she's aware that she needs to partner with a local
Organization.
Community organization, because the opportunists were the ones in Edinburgh that really drove that project. And the township, I think, our contribution was the land and then the operational side of things afterwards.
Yeah,
I
absolutely.
don't think we put any actual money into it. It was very, very minimal anyway. So she's well aware of that. I think from our perspective right now is 2 things that we need to think about. The first thing is, do we want one in Russell? And if the township says absolutely not, then obviously that stops her process. But if council says yes, we're absolutely open to having it, then I think that starts the ball moving, because we haven't said that yet.
Right.
So I think we need to say something. So if we are okay with it, then we move forward from that. And then it's, okay, what is the preferred location? And I think we'd have to get Madame Guiteau involved, Mr. Godin, Mr. Duzuc, get and Madame Tremblay from a planning perspective. Where is the best place? Because, yeah, that might be an okay location, but we've also got, you know, the discussion came out of the Russell Trails area, because I think one of the developers was considering putting something there, or that was the idea. And when you think about Russell Trails, then you got Sunset Flats, and now you got this massive housing development with young families and whatnot. That might be a better place to put it than on the main street, where it's, you know, it's a little further away from everybody else. I think that might be a really good spot to put it as well. So just location is a good thing. I think we have some open parks there as well, open land space, so maybe a consideration to do that as well. So I think the first thing we have to do is say, yes, we're absolutely open to having one in Russell, and then from there, now let Madame Murphy organize a group together and meet with Parks and Rec, meet with the committee on that as well, and then move forward. So
I agree. I think this council can say we're open to it, but there's going to be change next year, right? So realistically, for budget purposes, I don't think it affects our budget for next year at all. But to coordinate, have them come do a presentation to the committee, and then we'll see where the committee sits. Mr. Godin?
So I just wanted I just looked up the splash pad and just to give council an idea, operational cost, and this might not be all the operational cost, but just on the water side, it represents the cost of about $20,000 this year. Just for mention.
And if I remember well, there was a few projects, skate park in Embrun, there was the splash pad at the same time, and at the budget session at that time, I think we had put $25,000 aside for these various projects. I don't think that 25 was ever used because they did such a good job in fundraising. But, okay, so for budget purposes, that's not affected at all.
Not for this, but as Councillor Godin, if we want to be okay virtually for it in Russell, because it's a good place that the kids can be safe to cool down and having fun. So, and she can approach one of the promoters, because they might be really interested to promote to have it in their section. So
It'll be a community-led project, just like it was here. Councillor Sosi?
Yeah, I was just wondering, do you know, Councillor Moran, where they were proposing to put it?
I believe that the original thought was somewhere around the pond. There's going to be a park. There's going to be a park space. So somewhere on that, I think on the north side of the pond.
I mean, I'm certainly open to it, and I know we also have a Russell Optimist Club as well, but I just know it's so difficult to fundraise right now for these groups, because, I mean, you know, I could see a trivia night being held for this.
Yeah.
And it's just right now, it's so difficult to help these groups, you know, to do the fundraising, so, but I'm certainly open to it.
Yeah. Possibly what we could do is once the discussion comes to the committee level, the committee can give a recommendation, might be able to, just as a comparable, price out with our supplier to say, if we wanted to build the same thing we have in Embrun in Russell, what the cost would be. So at least to give them an idea to say, look, you're looking at, now it's a $200,000-$300,000 project. Like, so just so the reality sets in how much money they're actually going to have to raise for this thing.
Yeah, because I can add that the Optimist Club, the Embrun Optimist Club, is currently working towards expanding the existing one in Embrun. So for just 2 extra components, it's going to be over $60,000.
Yeah.
So, and don't forget that this splash pad was installed almost 8 years ago.
Yeah.
So definitely the prices will be much higher.
Yeah. And of course, it's a new asset that affects our asset management. We have to add funds every year for the eventual replacement. But we'll try. We're open to the idea. I get the impression everybody here is open to the idea, but it's going to be a multi-year project for sure. Next item: paving Grove Road from 500 to Marionville Road. Oh, did I skip one? Sorry, the ash tree replacement program in Animidet. I know that South Nation has this program with City of Ottawa, but City of Ottawa puts $200,000 a year towards this program. And it's, I mean, at the end of the day, it's not done. There's so many trees that have to be replaced. Mr. Bourgon, not sure if you have any thoughts on that?
Well, I didn't put a specific amount because, as you just mentioned, it could vary a lot. We could have this, like a similar program like we have for the diaper, washable diaper, that maybe we set like a $2,000 or $5,000 aside, and it's first come first served type of funding, and everybody gets a specific amount. So something I could maybe propose to council, it could be an item put in my business plan to put in place some kind of a small program, get it approved, and then we can decide if it's something to put forward in the next budget.
Yeah, because realistically, if Ottawa's putting $200,000 for a population of 1 million people, you know, we're looking at a few $1,000s if we want to maintain that same ratio, if you will. So, okay, everybody okay with Mr. Bourgon just looking at that? Okay. Next one was paving of Grove Road from 500 to Marionville Road. Obviously, we're going to see a lot of paving requests. It's not included, $93,900. I assume that's because we paved Grove Road last year. But we stopped just before this section, correct?
Yeah, exactly. So the remaining portion is a gravel section.
Okay.
So basically, the residents are asking to get it converted from gravel to pavement.
We had discussions yesterday about possibly creating that second stream, and Mr. Bourgon coming back with a list, if you will. So I think that's probably the same process we'll follow if we decide to move forward with that initiative. Next, proposal for curbside compost pickup. That we've had discussions. Again, yesterday you proposed a timeline that would see us 2023 with the end of the recycling funds. That way there's no impact on user fees, garbage fees. I think everybody's okay with that. Okay. Councillor Lai?
And just to remind me, that was proposed to be around September of 2023?
Yeah, exactly. So if we look at the tender process, award contracts, and education perspective, yeah, it would bring us around September of 2023.
Next request, Mr. Chris Wright, regarding the increase at the transfer station. He's proposal for an annual tipping credit for residents, and 2 was the reinstatement of the annual allotment of free additional garbage stickers. I don't think we had an allotment of free garbage stickers. We had 52 stickers, which was once a week, and we eliminated that. You know, some people had extra stickers. I mean, it was just the way it goes. I don't know if anybody wants to do anything with that. Councillor Associate?
Well, it was just the cost of printing all those stickers, so that was one reason why we went with one bag, and if they needed more, then they would purchase the sticker, and I think that worked the best.
Okay, I'll say that.
Yeah, that was, I mean, as long as I've been here, there was never an extra sticker or an additional sticker allotment, like a free allotment. So there was the 52, and you were able to use the previous years if you hadn't used them for the following year, but that was it.
Yeah.
So I don't, and then the annual tipping credits for residents. How would that work?
But yeah, I'm not even sure, Mr. Bourgon. It's because the price doubled for the minimum at the transfer station, and people aren't happy with that. But I mean, it's a private business; we have no say on that. And at the end of the day, the reason we went that deal with the transfer station is because long term we're saving with our own landfill site. We closed that, and if we hadn't closed that, the garbage fee would be higher today. So there's already a savings compared to what the other option was. Monsieur Bourgon?
Well, I know that some resident referred as well, maybe not that specific request, but they allude to the fact that when we had the landfill site, every resident had like one free load or equivalent of. So some residents are referring to that that free one-time going to the landfill.
Yeah. Monsieur Ledoux?
So, well, do we remember how much saving did the residents get when we closed the garbage site? Because that might be the communication piece here to say, well, we saved you annually
So much.
from
Versus-
closing the garbage site, that this is why there's no need for a credit here, because you're already saving $50 or $60 a year on
I think that
closing a waste site.
if I remember well, it wasn't an immediate savings. It was a long-term savings when we looked at all the money we had to put into the landfill site. We were saving it. We were ahead long-term.
Yeah, exactly, Mr. Mayor, you're right. It was not an immediate saving. We were able to maintain the user fee as they were. We did some little tweaking, but it was really minor, but it was mostly the long-term situation.
So maybe it's that communication piece saying that if we had not closed the landfill site, your fee today would have been so much more. That's where the savings comes from.
And also, since we discussed the composting component, well, it's going to be a big driver to reduce the waste for the resident. Because we could do estimates about 30%, but it could go up to 70% of waste reduction once the composting is in place.
Yeah. And eliminating the leaf and yard waste, that'll be a savings there too. Councillor Janowski?
And just a question, would there be any value in exploring, like buying one trip to the transfer station for every residence? Obviously, we would get it at a much lower price, and there might be some value, like we would transfer that cost to the residents, but it would be a much lower value. Sorry, much lower cost in terms of individual, just asking.
We haven't explored those.
Go ahead.
We haven't explored that option. If it's a direction from council, certainly something that we could look into and report back afterwards.
Might be worth looking. My first impression though is if we buy one for every residence, it's not every residence that's actually going to use it, right? So if you have 50% of the people that use it, well, that's 50% that we spent that we didn't have to spend for that. But maybe have some conversations with the company and see where that can go. Everybody okay with that? And then maybe have the discussion at the environmental committee as well, see their thoughts. Next item, Mrs. Sheldrick proposal for a GPS app for the public track snowplows. We had that discussion yesterday, so I think Mr. Baudon is going to see what possibilities can come out of that. There's no budget impact. Item 8, paving St. Andre from Route 400 to 500. Just to confirm, here it says Route 400, Marionville Road pour 2 lifts. Hier, tu as mentionné une section, c'est juste une lift, c'est ça?
Oui, exactement. Donc, c'est vraiment le montant représente ce que j'ai mentionné hier. Donc, la route 400, la route 500 est 32 couches de pavé, puis le 500 Marionville est 30 couches.
Okay, so we'll just put a star next to that because that'll be part of the discussions when we tally where we are with everything. Saint Joseph Route 400 to 500, 578 2 lifts. Again, that's not on the current plan. But if we do go ahead with what we potentially go yesterday, that might be an option. Conseiller Vincent?
I was even wondering, in that road, do we need the 2 lift? Because I know that before it was, most of the road is only 1 lift. There's not as much heavy traffic, and it's not one that is connecting any major road. That's why I was wondering if at least one, because I know there's some of those roads. I take, for example, Saint-Thomas at the end, and it was even service treatment.
Mr. Booker?
Something that we could do, when I'll bring back the list of that second stream, we could establish just a quick standard, if I can say it that way, that if it reaches like that over that amount of traffic or those specific criteria, then we move up to a 2 lift. So we could have that small difference. So it could allow us maybe to have pay more road in that second stream.
Yeah. compared to they'll never be done now, so it'll be an improvement whatever we have.
I guess just as we did suggest that from 400 to, not 400 to 500 to Marionville, that we were suggesting one width, that's why I'm saying St. Joseph would be about the same. So.
Yeah, so I can certainly add those specific, and it would be much more work, but we could, so at least it would give us, to establish some kind of a standard for that second stream as well.
Okay. Conseiller Lorrain? No, we're good. Okay. Item 10, paving Louise Crescent, Bordeaux Crescent. I think that falls into the new stream we're talking about. I think as well is this is an area that we've been kind of putting off for a few years because we say someday they might want sewers. I think realistically this is an area just, it's so cost prohibitive they'll never get sewers. So yeah, so it's that'll go into the second list, if you will. Okay. Next one, Marionville, that's included in operational budget, so we don't have to discuss that one. 11.2, it's included in the operational budget, we're good there. 11.3, it's included in the operational budget, but item 2 is not included. Okay, this is for the City of Ottawa Christmas lights. I did see some emails going through the City of Ottawa councillor, and I think we provided some information to the City of Ottawa for cost and stuff. So it's really up to the City of Ottawa if they want to provide lights on their side of the streets. The next 11.4, paving the streets of the village. Again, that'll come back into the second stream, I would think, and we'll see where it goes there. Item 2, the parking lot at community center was repaved during the summer 2021. Big thank you. The necessary asphalt the entrance, which gives access to the kitchen. Is that the section we're looking at right now? It's included in the budget.
That's right, Mr. Mayor.
Okay, perfect. And then part of Gregoire Well is being done next year with the City of Ottawa. That's one of the major UCPR projects, so there's going to be some improvements there as well. Séraphin Marion Park, replace lights at ball field with LED. Ça, c'est pas planifié pour l'année prochaine.
No, it's not. We will start looking into it maybe for the budget 2023.
Okay, the paint, the electrical poles, that stuff,
That's
that's
all
operational. So, okay, so staff's looking at that, we're good.
And number 4 is it's part of the capital project for next year.
Good, parfait. 11.6, natural gas. You know, that's something that's not at this level, so I do lobbying when I have the opportunity to do so, but that's an issue in many communities. High-speed internet, there was an announcement made by the federal government about a month ago, 6 weeks ago now, that there's going to be improvements in the area. I believe they gave a contract to Bell, so that would be nice to see. Item 12, Stanley Park, proposal repairs and equipment upgrades. 1 and 2, which is switching the tall structure for something more kid-friendly, and 2, replacing the seesaw and the end thing. 1 and 2 will be assessed by the department. 3, electrical wires to bring up to code. That was done and approved by a certified electrician. The shelter is finished, and the basketball court ice rink is falling into disarray. It says open for discussion. Did you want to add anything, Madame Guital, to that request?
For the rink, that rink started, it was a volunteer initiative, if you want, and now there's no more volunteers who wants to take care of the rink. We will probably try to make another invitation to the residents that live in that subdivision. If we don't have any how can I say that? Any will from the residents, then we might come back to council to see what we should be doing with that structure. Because obviously we can't have outdoor rink in every subdivision. We will definitely lack resources at one point. We will.
It's in slab, yeah?
I think so. I think it was weak. Yeah. It's a permanent rink.
Yeah, because there's basketball courts.
There's basketball courts.
Yeah.
That's right.
Okay.
Yeah. So the boards are getting in bad shape, but for the last I don't know how many years now, they're not doing any ice in the winter. So either we keep it as is and take off the boards and just leave it as a basketball court, which we could definitely. So this will be coming back to council.
Okay, perfect. Anything to add from residents, from council on this one? No? Item 13, paving. Again, it's not included in the budget. The Saint-Jean Road between Saint-Jean-Baptiste and Saint-Augustin, that'll go into the next list. Item 14, proposal to increase the number of leaf and yard waste pickups per year. Proposal of green bin. Again, we had discussion on that. We might be getting 2 birds with 1 stone in 2023, so that's that. 15.1, proposal for traffic study problems on Image Road. Okay, that's already in the capital budget. 11.2 is included in the operational budget. 11.3 is already in the operational budget. Item 2, got one through that one. My apologies. I flipped it around.
We're on 15.2.
15.2, thank you. Proposal to implement a regular maintenance program for Trail West in the Canas Park. So we're preparing a report from council, so we'll have that discussion when that comes at that time. Operational budget for the cleaning of ditches on King Street. Item 16, repaving the Church Street between Concession Street and Wade Road. That's not included. Again, we're putting a second. Hopefully, we're putting a second stream in place for those type of roads. 17, accessibility and remote launch to make an exterior path from parking lot to ramp, accessible ramp. The improvements have been done. We've been getting grants from the USPR for the last couple of years, correct? For that, for the boat launch?
Yeah, like I mentioned yesterday, the cement slab and the dock were all completed this year. So I think they're talking about making an accessible path down. The problem with that boat launch is the hill, if you want, is like, and I think Mr. Bocon will agree, will be very hard to be accessible because we don't have enough land to create the right slope to be accessible. So I'm not sure if Mr. Bocon will look into this, but
well, we can, I'm not sure, peut-être quelque chose à ajouter?
Parce que je sais que la rampe a été réajustée aussi là, avec pour 3 rampes. On a dit, on peut leur discuter au comité d'accessibilité avec envoyer là. Mais je pense pas, comme on disait, qu'il y a grand-chose qui est fait parce que c'est quand même sur du gravier pavé. Ça fait qu'on ne peut pas tout paver partout. Puis, c'est comme je dis, je pense pas qu'il y a de problème là, mais on peut en discuter au comité, ça peut être transféré.
Good, have that discussion at the committee and see where it's going there. I think the only thing I would be, hesitant is if we invested to have an accessible ramp or an accessible boat launch, and people with accessibility issues can't get to then what was the point of doing that part?
okay, well, maybe I could add to this. You can go down with your car and then disembark down at the boat launch, and then you can go on the dock if you want. We created the.
You can leave your car there.
Yes, leave your car there. Mm-hmm. So this is what we did to create a whole dock, an accessible dock. Was almost undoable because, like you said, you have to be careful when you create something that becomes accessible. You need to have the whole area accessible to get there. So, and like Monsieur Councillor Bisson said, it would be very hard to create the hill to be accessible, and going from the higher level going down there with, let's say, a wheelchair, because the hill is too steep.
So what I would recommend, have the discussion, and if the recommendation is not to do anything, then actually send a recommendation to council saying the committee has evaluated this and we are not recommending that we proceed with any further discussions on this topic.
And I know that, like I think it's Cassinan, and there's a few places that they did put some ramp, some pipe around, but then it blocked the other side. So if some people want to fish at the same time as some people launch their boat, they're almost stuck because of this pipe that they put. So there's no really useful. I said it's almost something that is worse than having nothing.
Okay.
Um,
We'll let the committee have those discussions
Yeah.
and send something back to council. That way we can, sometimes the recommendation to council is don't do anything. But at least the committee sends a recommendation to make it clear for staff when we get a request, can say, committee's already looked at it and made a recommendation to council not to proceed. So, item 18, extension of sidewalk on Saint-Augustin Street, Dazé Street, and la Madeleine, 150 000, il n'est pas inclus au budget. Same thing with 19, extension of sidewalk on Saint-Pierre Street from the bike path to Highbridge Street, 20,000 is not included. Monsieur Bourgon?
So, Mr. Mayor, I just want to add that the sidewalk along Saint-Augustin, it will be one of the conditions for a future subdivision.
Okay.
They're proposing a subdivision along Saint-Augustin on the east side. So we will be asking an extension of the sidewalk to link to that subdivision.
Okay, perfect. There you go. Always better get the developer to pay for it. We'll see the
So for 19, just that for 20,000 to have that small part, I think it would be good, especially that they're doing the sidewalk in that project, that it's for the safety too of the people that walk along.
Correct me if I'm wrong, though, in the subdivision, there's access to the bike path, correct?
Yes, there is.
Yeah, I think my son was there. There's 2 areas in the subdivision that you can just cross straight onto the bike path. Would you recommend that we have a sidewalk?
Well, when we had that conversation earlier this year, my recommendation was asking the contractor to do that portion of sidewalk. It will link sidewalk to a sidewalk. So people, like right now, the subdivision stops at Saint-Pierre and sidewalk stops at the trail, so that there's a disconnect right now for people to use the sidewalk network. In wintertime, the sidewalk are maintained, which the trail is only groomed, so you don't have the same surface to walk on.
Okay, so let's put a star next to that one, and once we see all the numbers, we can have further discussion if we want to include it. Councilor Lorraine, Conseiller Thomas.
Yeah, I think I would support the extension just to tie that in. So let's absolutely put that one in the star, and hopefully we have money to do that.
Councilor Panoski?
Sorry, just looking for clarification for 18. What kind of timeline do you think that looks like? Because that's something that's come up over and over again for the last few years.
Monsieur Bacon?
It's hard to say. It's really the private side that's going to drive how quickly they want to proceed with that subdivision. There's still that process of get the draft approved, get all the plans in place, do the construction. So we're looking at still a few years. But for the municipality point of view, it would be better to have it as a condition than to use our taxation dollars.
Yeah, I agree. I was just wondering.
Okay. Next item, 21, proposal for purchase of
20.
repaving of North Russell Road between 100 and Divine Road, including a stretch of Divine Road. So only North Russell is a township road, $365,000 for that section. Mr. Bourgon, anything to add?
Well, that portion again would fall in the second stream that we've been discussing. I think we do receive lots of complaint for Frontier and Divine. So I think there's some education piece to our resident, to them to understand it's Ottawa Road, not township. So, like and it makes me think that our road network is actually in good condition compared to our neighbor.
Okay. Perfect. Maybe we can just pass a resolution similar to what we've done for the counties, one that we can send to the councillor for the city of Ottawa saying, we're getting a lot of complaints for these 2 roads. If you guys can consider this in your annual budget. We'll see you back.
Yeah, that was one thing Super Gong spoke about, is those 2 turns going out North Russell Road, one at Burton and the other one going on to Frontier at Burton as well, and towards Hamilton Road. Those roads are terrible, and they are an accident waiting to happen as you come around. when you're coming into the township and you turn, because of the farming equipment and because of the narrowing of the road, the sides have broken off. And I know the township staff who were there, or somebody was there the last couple of weeks, and they were putting more gravel down, but that's still just a Band-Aid, right? And you come around, and if that farm equipment is coming on the other side, you kind of got to move over a bit more, and it's a bump, right? It's all cracked and bumped, and you hit that, and you're right into that field. And I hate to see something like that happen. So if we can, maybe bring a resolution to council to get it to Ottawa and see if we can start working on something there.
I believe it's Councillor Kitt's area that falls.
And I know Burton Road was scheduled to be in their paving plan next in 2023, so not next year, but in 2 years. So I can follow up to make sure that it's still the plan, because they've been pushing off Burton Road for a few years already.
And if it does, it might fall in line with our quote unquote second stream of paving at that level. If they're going to do that road, then you may as well do that section of North Russell at the same time and kind of coordinate that whole paving project, right?
Okay, perfect, thank you. Next item 21, proposal for purchase a swing set for Richelieu Park. It says here meeting with the committee, Madame Vital.
Yes, this is a committee that was created in the Richelieu area. So we're meeting with them next week because they have more demands than just a set of swing. So we want to sit down with them and go through their demands and their requests and see what we can do. There will be some trees planted in that park. So that's one thing that will be done for this year.
Okay, Councillor Lemay, Councillor Kanoski.
I assume that once you meet with them, they'll be referred to the Parks and Rec committee so that they can review and.
She's already been.
Councillor Kanoski.
Yes, I just wanted to comment that this is a group much like the Stiver Park Committee, which is really nice to see. It's a grassroots committee, and they're really taking the bull by the horns. And I'd like to see us support them. They are coming back to us, and we are supporting them already with some trees and stuff like that. But we'll probably be hearing more of this group. So I just wanted to make sure everyone was aware of it.
Okay, thank you very much. 22, Creation Seniors Center in the village of Russell. We already have he's looking for their own space similar to Embrum. Is that what the ask is, Madame?
Yeah, this request did not come to me, but obviously it's probably under recreation. I know they've been wanting a place of their own. They have free use of the Russell Arena upstairs in the hall for almost every day of the week. Depending on the request they make us, we try to accommodate them the best we can. But definitely they would like to have their own buildings.
Right. They see that Embrum has their own location and they want the same.
In Marionville, it's part of the hall that is kind of designed as for the senior because there's a place that can be closed of the south side of the hall.
Oh, potentially. Again, potentially in the future, we might have some infrastructure that could be available for this kind of project. We're not quite there yet, but I don't see us building anything right now. So, Councillor Associate.
And the Sport News Center isn't big enough?
They used to be there, and then when we had given management to a local committee, they had to pay to go in the youth center, so they left there and they came to the Russell Arena, and they're happy there. So I think at one point they would have liked to be in the youth center, but they would have liked to have the hall for themselves and have no one else to go in there. So this is the part that the township was not really in favor, because we have a lot of programming going in that hall. Soccer club uses it in the summer, and in the summertime it's our space for our day camps. So we couldn't allow them to have an exclusion on the building. So they preferred to stay at the Russell.
Okay, perfect. Thank you. Okay, Councillor Lorraine.
Do we own any other buildings in Russell? And then there's a whole list of things. Are there any other buildings that we own that could have exclusivity to an area?
Not unless we take away from someone else.
Yeah.
Right? That's the reality. And to be honest, the youth center, I've gone to their luncheon that they do. I don't think the youth center would be big enough for the size
No.
of when
For
they
the
cater
luncheon,
that.
they need the big hall, because sometimes they're close to 200.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, okay. Next item, 23, again, paving North Russell Road, Hamilton Road 200, 100, a lot of paving stuff. First one's not included, the second one is in the 2022-23 budget. Item 3 is by the developer. 4 dead trees along the trail shall be cut and cleaned so they potentially do not fall on the users as it happened between forests. That's something that's an operational budget. Continuously, we're cleaning the trees on the
Yeah.
trail.
Yeah, we're
Okay.
pretty diligent with that.
Splash pad, we've already had that discussion. Dog on leash is not respected enforced along the trails. Well, you know, there is a responsibility of dog owners. Do we want to start patrolling the trail nonstop? I don't think we're at that point. Bring the deficit down. Oh, that's interesting. So we want all these things that are costing money, but we want the deficit to be brought down. Okay.
Yeah, the question is what deficit?
What
Yeah.
deficit?
Like, bring the deficit down. We just seen the numbers yesterday.
Mhm.
We're, you know, and I had the discussion actually last night when I got home with a neighbor, you know, sitting outside, and we were talking about it. You know, we're like just meeting our self-imposed debt capacity, let alone the province's debt capacity. So we're nowhere near that. And the other fact is, we can't be in a deficit.
That's it.
Right? Like that's mandated by the province. We can't be in a deficit at the end of the year. So that I don't understand what that means.
Yeah. And the stop sign going west on Burden and North Russell Road is not respected or executed, thus leaving room for major accidents. Again, that's not township, and Burden Road is more of a boundary road than it is a municipal road. Okay, next 24, repaving of St. Andre, St. Jacques, St. Joseph roads. Again, we've already dealt with paving. 25, paving again. We've had that discussion. 26, the attached picture shows an example of patchwork sidewalk repairs that have been done on First Avenue, Russell, and this repair spans across streets, Castor Street. There are extensive areas that pose hazard for pedestrians. I think we all know that we have a shortfall again in our sidewalk infrastructure as well. That's partly why we continuously improve our infrastructure fund. We've talking about 2 streams. Well, maybe we're going to have to create a stream specifically for sidewalks as well to eliminate those gaps and to catch up on the asset management shortfall. A whole bunch of comments here. I see a lot of it is operational stuff, Mr. Bougon. So you guys are working on that. 27, proposal tag mechanics at Heritage Road and South Russell Road. The pedestrian crossing. It says here, council would need to direct staff to prepare a motion for council's consideration. Did I read somewhere? Did we do the analysis? Council had this discussion and we talked about an analysis, Mr. Bougon?
Well, I did present the report the Monday we just passed, and Command Bordeaux's team is doing the gap analysis right now, so we'll have more information coming to council shortly.
Okay, perfect. 28, paving again, Route 400 to 500. 29, repaving all of North Russell Road. 30, repaving North Russel Road. 31, proposal for the pathway from the bike path to the other pathway coming from Maple Park in Russell. I think an accessible picnic table near the structures would be a good idea. Any thoughts on that, Madame Vital? I guess it's
Which one is that? Sorry, the one?
31. So it says proposal for the pathway from the bike path
Oh, yes.
to the other
Yes.
pathway on Maple. So I guess
Yes.
it's just continuer, complément.
Well, we've discussed that yesterday, in fact, with Councillor Brisson. We're looking into having it maybe done this year.
Okay.
Because we still have some money from the parks. So it's basically from the exit of the bike path to the, that will link with the other paved already,
Section
path.
going to Maple.
Yeah, that goes to Maple,
So you'll just
and
be-
it's gonna be like just as alongside the play structure too, so.
Okay, parfait. 32, proposal for money to create accessible trails, gravel only in Richelieu Park and Brisson Park. Thoughts on that, Madame Bouton?
Brisson Park is not yet ready for that. For the Richelieu Park, we'll look into it. First of all, the feasibility of this and how it could be done.
Okay. Conseiller Brisson?
Juste mentionner qu'il peut aussi faire rire que l'autre, là, mais que sans partir à la municipalité, puis...
Madame Bouton?
It might be ready, but it's not in our park design for this year, so that's why I'm saying it's not as ready as it should be, that has been in existence for a long time.
Okay, parfait. 33, proposal for paving Hamilton Street, it's included in the budget. 34, proposal tag green bin, we've had that discussion. 35, green bin, yeah, we've already had that discussion as well. 36, this is submitted by Bill Smurl. This is in regards to the Dundas Manor, which is the long-term care facility in Winchester, where a portion of Russell residents go there. They've made a request, a donation of $100,000, whether it be a lump sum, 5 years, 10 years. They're looking for some kind of contribution. That being said, I have mentioned to Mr. Smurl that he has to understand that we have a long-term care facility in Prescott Russell, which the township is one of the major, our residents pay for that. A good portion, probably around 23% is coming from Russell Township. So not sure if any members of council are no interest in this one. Okay. 37, purchase of machinery to make trail maintenance easier for volunteers. Total equipment is $7,926. Ace budget for 2020 was $3,700. 2021, due to exceptional increase in members, we had a fund entry of $6,400 and expenses of $4,200. So they're asking for roughly $8,000. It's not included. We did mention, Madame Pittard, any thoughts on this?
Well, the first reason that it was not included is because it came in late.
Right.
We got it like the last weekend, so my capital projects were already identified at that time. So that's why it's not included. So I will leave it up to council. I know that last year we did give $6,000 to that group for the purchase of a snow dog. Now they want to purchase a container and 2 snow blowers and a whipper strip.
Okay. I've been on the trails, they're incredible. I think a few of us have. The mountain bike trails, ACE, that I always thought Russell Township was pretty flat until I went down that hill and went over the handlebars a few times. This could be something council consider. I mentioned the matching grants fund we had earlier. You know, if they're asking $8,000, we could say, well, we're willing to give 4 if you guys put the other 4. That way we're still, you know, it becomes more of a partnership as opposed to just us handing over money. Councillor Tarnowski?
So I really like the idea of that. First of all, I think the Ace Trail and what they've done with that space is fantastic. It really adds to the community. So I would like to support them, but I think that way with the matching grant kind of process, I think it's a great way to make sure that the residents or the groups kind of buy into it as well. It's not just I really like that idea. I'd like to support that.
Okay. Monsieur Leduc?
I think before committing, there's an issue of a container. I think we have container bylaws in our township, so that might be an issue. Can that container, what size, and can that be just meet the bylaw? So
Have to verify that information.
that has to be clarified before making too much commitment to this.
Conseiller Bisson?
C'était quoi les autres? Parler en container?
Container, there's no blower, our whippersnapper. You mean? The other cachoto. I think that was it.
Parce que je pourrais dire...
Which they want commercial grade.
C'est pas juste une souffleuse résidentielle, là, il y a quelque chose de commercial qui savent que ça va pas.
Mais je sais pas où, ça serait tellement juste pour les banques, parce que le reste est tout tapé. C'est pour ça que je suis juste. Ça serait à étudier avant de dire oui dedans, parce que oui, ils ont fait une très bonne job, tout ça, mais je ne vois pas l'utilité. Et ça serait vraiment de. C'est des budgets, comme c'est pas le gros montant non plus. Mais j'aimerais mieux comme avoir des indications à quoi ils veulent utiliser. Est-ce que c'est quoi que quelqu'un peut se payer facilement, bien faire? Si c'est juste une chose de faite, mais tu es quelqu'un de proche qui peut le faire, approcher quelqu'un. C'est ça, juste avoir plus de détails avant de...
I do have the presentation, because Mr. Ryan had sent a presentation, but obviously it was too late when we got it. So the container is a 20 feet damaged container, and he says approximately $5,000. There's 2 snow blowers, and it says it's for cleaning of the trail, $1,000 each, and then a weed trimmer, a commercial one that is worth about $900.
Yeah, I mean, I'm open to the matching grants component of it. I think it does add to the community. I think it's something that brings in some economic development funds as well. People into the community as they come through. I mean, if we look at their expenses and their budgets and whatnot, I think they're already $2,400 into it. So they have, if they raise another $1,500, $1,600. That gets them 4,000. We put the other 4, they got 30,000. Off you go. So I think it's a small commitment, and but I think it's an important one.
I think as well that a lot of the work, it's all volunteer work, right? So they are putting significant, it's to their benefit, but it's benefiting the whole community. Like Councilor said, like every Tuesday and Thursday, these people are coming in from outside the community, going to our local businesses, spending money. So,
ma seule suggestion, je voudrais que cette présentation-là, avant qu'on prenne une décision, que cette présentation-là, puis tout ça soit présenté au Park and Rec Committee, puis que là, qu'on ait plus de détails, qu'on puisse revenir avec ça, puis comme on dit, ça ne fait pas comme je disais, un gros montant, une couple de
well, if we go through the matching grants fund, it doesn't affect the budget whatsoever. So.
Yeah. That's why the suggestion of Mr. Bisson, I like it.
Yep.
Where you go there, make the request, the funds are already there, so you just council makes a decision. So there's time to review this and provide proper
the committee can make a recommendation to council on how to proceed. Okay, parfait. Prochain item, c'est we're going to schedule C, c'est ça? We have the first one, path paved from trail into playground, numéro 18. So,
That's the one that we were just talking about.
Okay, c'est la même chose. 22, Hamilton Road, that we're dealing with. It's included in the budget. Je sois certain. 2021, not included in the road needs study. Paving a shoulder, mais c'est inclus en 2022, c'est ça? Okay. Numéro 1, I'd like to see a basketball. Oh, these are from Councillor Associate. One would like to see a basketball hoop erected at the Slavic Keyboy Park for the older kids. That's in the operational budget, so we're good there. 2, paving from the trail. That's the one that we were just talking about. Perfect. Item 3, connect with community groups for the flags to be erected on the poles, Russell Village and Emblem, highlighting our community groups. That's falls under communication. Mr. Duc?
Yeah, that work has started. The issue is the number of poles available because the Christmas lights lamps are already there. There are some concerns with that. So, but this is a project that Mrs. Wheeler is working with. And with COVID, we did not have much time on it, but we're working on this right now. It's just identifying where and who will be coming to council regarding this kind of program.
Okay, but for budget purposes, there's nothing we need to worry about for budget?
There's already money in the budget for this.
Right, okay. Number 4, 50,000 towards tree planting. How much are we putting currently?
30.
30? Okay, so you're looking for an additional 20? Okay, do you have any suggestions where you'd like to take it from? No? Anywhere you want to cut or you want to add in taxes? So we'll put a star next to that when we have those discussions.
doesn't give you very many trees, you know, and I'm thinking of the trail and, just, you know, wondering if it's possible.
Okay, we'll put a star next to that one. 5, pollinator seeds, plants, wildflowers, be planted along trails, medium. It's in the business plan for 2022, Mr. Bernal?
Well, sorry, that's what I recommend to council, put in the business plan to establish like which road we could put forward and to then apply for funding afterwards. Or
You're okay with that, Councillor Sosa? 6, community garden in the budget again. Will be at the rec complex site in 2023.
That's around that date. We've had some discussions and we're looking into that.
Okay, I think there's discussions. We actually have a community garden right now, right, from the public. So I think there could be coordination between the two, between us and PECUNIARY to see how those discussions can. We don't want to necessarily duplicate what's going on, but.
No, but that's a good idea because I think, you know, even though they were donating to the food bank and also local women's shelters and things like that, there was still an abundance of food left over, which I think could have been used. Like it was just a shame to see all the stuff falling off the lines, you know, and I mean, you couldn't harvest enough of what was there. I mean, she did an incredible job.
Right.
Jennifer Glenn, but it's just, I think there was an abundance that could have been put to use.
So what we need to make sure then is, do we actually have the demand for a second community garden run by the township, right? If she had gone getting rid of the food and we're going in that direction, I know we were still discussing what type of community garden. Would it be, you know, people that are renting lots or that space? So it has to be still looked at.
Yeah, plots, individual plots, you mean, or things like that. But I think that would be a great resource to partner with, you know, just because it's been done, and then would give us ideas as well.
Okay, that'll be quelque chose à ajouter, Monsieur Leduc?
Again, that's a communication-led project, which will fall in the Parks and Rec once it's established. That's if council chooses to proceed, because we're intending to bring a report that will just show exactly what we're looking at, options, because there's a variety of types of community gardens, with a variety of issues regarding access, security, whatever else. So who maintains that? So that's why there will be a report we're being worked on.
Perfect.
So we'll know. So we know if we have a partner or not. But goes on.
Yeah, I think Comms is already in touch with the individual I mentioned.
Je pense aussi qu'il y a besoin de la communication, parce que je sais que je suis un femme qui avait amené pour la communauté de Garden. Mais est-ce que le format, est-ce que ça allait à un grand jardin central, mais au milieu de nowhere, ou c'est des plus petits jardins, plus proches de la communauté, entretenu par quelqu'un qui peut...
c'est ça, le rapport va amener toutes ces options-là au conseil pour considérer c'est quelle sorte de community garden you want to go forward with.
Je pense que c'est pour ça qu'il y a encore de la discussion à avoir un peu de main-d'œuvre.
Oui.
Et s'il y a une demande aussi.
Councillor Sosa?
Yeah, and I just wanted to add that Mrs. Beeler came to the Environment Committee also just to give her presentation and ideas, and you know, we want to support it as much as possible.
Perfect. Okay. Number 7, funds for incentive to farmers who leave buffer hedgerows and trees. You're recommending in the business plan for next year, Mr. Bourgon?
yeah, similar to the ash tree program, we need to establish some kind of guidelines before council make any decision of what type of budget they would like to see. So that's why I recommend to put in my business plan and to have it presented, like to bring a report to council and try to.
Okay, you're okay with that, Councillor Sosa?
Yep.
Okay, 8, buffer zones along water courses, shorelines are not stripped of trees. You're recommending, Mr. Bourgon, same thing, business plan, bring a report to council on that.
Yeah, and we discussed that yesterday.
Yeah. 9, big green bin, we know where we're going with that. Item 10 was Councillor Larin for an additional school crossing that would require crossing guard near St. Thomas High School. Comments. Following discussion on the crosswalk at Heritage area near St. Thomas High School, it was recommended that a gap analysis is conducted to find out the number of cars passing by, number of people that. The analysis concluded that the crossing was not needed, but an official decision from council is expected. So, Councilor Larraine, did you want to share thoughts on that?
Well, I think we talked about that Monday night, and that we were still coming back with the gap analysis, right, to figure it out. I didn't know any decisions had been, or conclusions had come yet, so.
I'm not sure why it's written, but we'll discuss it when it comes back. Okay.
Just one suggestion that could be considered too, it's just the crossing light that we have like for the trail. That might be a good thing because that's the St. Thomas, that's high school student. So maybe we don't need a person there, just with safety, with
Il y a un rapport qui va revenir là-dessus, M. Bourreau. OK, parfait. Okay, next item is request from the committees. Increased budget for tree planting. We're going to discuss that a little bit further. Creation of new budget for tree planting. It's in the business plan. We're okay with that. Accessibility committee. They asked for $20,000. We've put $25,000 in the budget, so we're ahead of the game on that one. Accessibility number 3, to address one of the major concerns identified by a resident in our recent accessibility survey, which was the accessibility in commercial buildings needed improvements. Township should budget for more publicity to promote the accessibility improvement grant program, which is part of the CIP program. I don't think we need to affect the budget at all. I mean, it's part of the CIP program. The department already does enough to, mention it to comments on that.
it was just to mention that even whenever I did mention, it was nobody that was aware that it was available through the CIP, so that's why it was it. And one thing that we were just discussing was also that grant is available and why are pourquoi les compagnies n'utilisent pas les entreprises? Est-ce que c'est parce que c'est trop, il y en a pas assez d'argent disponible pour ce projet-là directement? Est-ce que ou c'est juste parce qu'ils sont pas au courant?
Mais je pense qu'il y a probablement plusieurs facteurs. Encore, tu peux rendre une entreprise accessible pour rentrer, mais si en dedans de l'entreprise, c'est pas accessible, why would you create the outside?
C'est pour ça que le comité disait, c'est comme pourquoi que ça n'a pas été utilisé plus que ça. Est-ce que ces choses-là, c'était juste pour avoir de la clarification,
Peut-être que c'est
une présentation?
Peut-être qu'il pourrait faire. On a une liste de tous nos business. Good timing, Madame Tremblay. On a une liste de toutes nos business. We have an email list. Maybe that's a small survey, a small questionnaire that can be sent to our local businesses in regards to accessibility. Do you know it's part of our CIP plan? What is preventing you from making accessible a commitment to accessibility, Monsieur Leduc?
I could suggest maybe that this issue of education from the owners. I think the committee mandate is to educate, and probably there could be some visits made by some committee members to say, okay, well, your building, okay, I understand that you have no obligation to do this, but as you become more accessible, these things could be done. Do you know you could apply for funding for the CIP if you were intending to do this kind of work? Now, I don't know if that meets the CIP program requirements, but if that education went through a visit by some members, so you could target 5, 6, 10 business a year if you want to, or the ones you already hear, they're not meeting it, but probably those owners don't know what obligations or what could be done easily to make it more accessible. So that would be a suggestion that the committee can take and consider.
Yeah. Okay. Madame Tremblay, tu voulais ajouter quelque chose? Vas-y. Oui, oui.
Le programme a été annoncé à plusieurs reprises via plusieurs plateformes, à chacune des entreprises par courriel, plusieurs fois. On a même envoyé un pamphlet par la poste à chacune des entreprises aussi qui sont éligibles au programme. Donc, je pense que ce n'est pas un manque d'essayer ou d'effort de notre côté pour que ce programme-là, donc dans la liste qu'on a envoyée aux entreprises, par courriel et par la poste, ça explique exactement chacun des programmes. En ce moment, le maximum pour le côté accessibilité, c'est 2 000 $ dans un total maximum de 10 000 $ par entreprise. Le programme est pour faciliter l'accès à l'entreprise de l'extérieur vers l'intérieur. Donc, si les entreprises à ce point-ci sont pas au courant du programme, pour être honnête, je ne sais pas plus qu'est-ce qu'on peut faire. On a même fait régulièrement, quand on fait nos rencontres de pré-consultation, on a quelqu'un à la table qui parle de ce programme-là. Donc, on essaie le plus possible, c'est à notre avantage de l'advertiser le plus possible.
C'est comme ça que le comité demandait justement, c'est toute la publicité, c'était quoi, c'était-tu un manque de publicité, si ça l'est pas, c'est pourquoi que les entreprises ne peuvent pas...
J'aime la suggestion à M. Leduc. Le comité peut faire des site visits. I would say, don't just drop in on them. Organize, schedule appointments with them. Maybe it's just an email that goes out to the businesses. Our accessibility committee is looking to help businesses improve accessibility. Are you interested in having a visit from the accessibility member and then having a discussion, because there is funding available for this type of program?
C'est qu'on discutait aussi, c'est qu'on va tout bien suggérer de réinviter Mme Tremblay pour qu'elle puisse venir expliquer un peu plus en détail aux membres c'est quoi le programme, c'est quoi les conditions, tout ça, que pour pas qu'on arrive là même, tout ça, de ne pas savoir.
Il faut juste aussi garder en tête que les entreprises doivent investir beaucoup d'argent pour avoir le 2 000 $.
Oui.
C'est peut-être là aussi, le CIP dans les village courts doit être revu cette année parce que c'est un 5 ans. Donc, si c'est une option, si on veut regarder à cette option-là d'augmenter la portion qui est relative au programme d'accessibilité, c'est toujours une option. Il faut garder en tête que c'est en proportion avec le maximum aussi que les entreprises peuvent avoir. Oui. C'est 10 000, puis ce programme-là est 2 000 sur le 10 000. Donc, si on augmente le 2 000, peut-être qu'il faudrait regarder à augmenter le montant total de subvention.
Puis c'est peut-être en visitant et avoir ces discussions-là, the business owners might be able to tell us, well, 2,000 is not enough for me to consider this. And then we'll have that discussion when we do the review.
C'est ça, j'aime bien l'idée, puis que justement qu'on invite à la prochaine réunion, pour qu'on ait de l'information avant d'y aller.
Parfait. Now we go to one more. Oh, that's the one that we're already talking about, paving and that part. So we go to, these are, I think, items submitted by staff. So the first one, Madame Thal brought up this in the past, not sure anything. Oh, it's through the Parks and the Rising Committee. Gotcha. My apologies. Lighting and baseball field. C'est quel ça? C'est pas dans... C'est-tu déjà fait ça?
Yes, it is in the capital project for 2022. It's the LED lights at the Diamonds in Russell.
Okay.
That's going to
So number 5, toutes ces choses-là qui sont mentionnées?
No, not all of it. Well, yeah, kind of. Electrical system that there were apparently some concerns, so we got this reviewed by our electrician and everything is fine.
Okay.
And the full-time outdoor rink in Russell. So at this point, there's no more talks with the Agricultural Society to build a permanent shelter, so I'm not sure where they are in their plans for that. But we've had discussions to have maybe an outdoor permanent rink at the complex site. So for now, this is where we would be aiming to have the next permanent outdoor rink.
Okay, perfect. Next item, I'd like to suggest that the fields, both infield and outfield, at most ball diamonds require some revitalization, level of ground to avoid injury, particularly diamonds in Russell and Richelieu. That's the first one. That's operational.
That's operational.
2, I'm not sure either if there has been money assigned to a splash pad in Russell as of yet. We've had that discussion. 3, the addition of mature trees at the lookout over the pond and Russell trails would be well received by many who cannot complete the track without a break. So that's tree planting. If we put smaller trees, they're eventually going to get there. Monsieur Bourdon?
But we still also need to wait before the contractor are done with the subdivision and the ponds get fully transferred to the municipality.
Okay, perfect. Councillor Associate?
Yeah, would that not be a responsibility of the developer to landscape around the ponds? You know, like even if they put some shrubs or something, because eventually I could see people sitting there with benches or whatever. And I know that's in the plan. I have talked to John Crovinelli about that. But
If it would only be if we had put it in the subdivision agreement at that point in time, but we haven't done that.
No, exactly.
Let's do that in the future.
So the major ponds that's currently, that will get transferred shortly whenever the subdivisions are completed, it's the municipality that will have to do those type of landscaping projects.
So when we do subdivisions, we have to think long-term and, those are potentially extra things that we want to consider when we're having those discussions.
And also, when we do those tree planting, we need to make sure that we do maintain accessibility for the maintenance of those ponds.
Right.
Okay.
No, I understand that, but it's just, it's just like an open field, and when people are walking around there, there's like no shade at all, so
Okay.
it would be nice.
Perfect. Next item, splash pad in Russell. Yeah, we've had that discussion. Number 8, the addition of mature trees over the pond. Right, so we've had that discussion. Il reste, je pense que c'est tout. Les autres, c'est juste des copies en français, c'est ça?
Oui, c'est ça.
Conseiller Grissom?
But just a comment I did make before, but I think it's good at this time to bring it up. I was wondering, whenever we have the request from the public for budget time, I think it would be a good time even for us, councillor, and if there's some staff, to bring our idea at that time, so that we have that discussion at the same time, so that sometimes it do comme ça engendre, ok, oui, c'est une bonne idée, je n'ai pas pensé à celle-là. C'est que ça soit amené à ce temps-là, puis ça se...
À la rencontre publique, tu parles?
Qu'on saurait aussi à ce temps-là, ok, ben, le public l'adhère, quand une fois que les présentations sont faites, là, on présente nos requests, comme les membres du conseil présentent leurs requests, fait qu'on peut l'avoir en même temps que tu n'oublies pas, c'est clair.
Yeah, well, I think if we want to go that route in the future, and that'll be the next council that we decide. But what the suggestion might be is to make sure that, like Councillor Sosi submitted her list, that we just say that list is submitted that night, so that all members are aware. But that's not the evening to have those discussions. This is the time to have those discussions. So, but now, si jamais on veut faire ça, we can set aside at that meeting that, we have public budget requests, and then we have another additional items for members of council to present. Here's the list of their requests, and we'll have the discussion. But again, the presentation, just so that we're aware, and then we have those conversations.
It was just that if there's any question at that time, then it's a publicly answered. Like it's viewed publicly.
It's viewed publicly, but so is this, right? So this is the time when we have stuff to present.
Moi, c'est juste une suggestion.
Okay.
C'est vrai que des fois, quand tu dis, hop, je l'ai oublié ou quoi quelqu'un, si on dit, OK, mais c'est totalement une chose.
Okay. Conseiller Larin?
Yeah, just on that point, I think I've had requested a few things in there, but I had spoken, I think, to Mr. Bourgon and throughout the year,
yes,
and say, just so you know, I've had this request. Can you make sure it's on the public request document? So it has my name on it, but it really comes from the public. But maybe they don't, they're not comfortable enough to come to our meeting. But I know that I've had a few discussions throughout the year, not necessarily right on that September 18th day. But Mr. Bourgon made sure it was in, or Madame Guitar made sure it was in here, so that we can have that discussion, whether it was in the budget or not. So we have that ability all year long to do that. So I think we need to make sure we keep doing it.
Okay, perfect. let's take a 5-minute break, and then Monsieur Auger will be back, and then we'll be able to see what the numbers are at and see where what possibilities and comments from the administration will. With the budget process. So now, Monsieur Godin, we're at the tabulation section.
That's correct. So, oui, donc, merci M. Maire. On a fait le tour des slide deck. Puis, en chemin, on a pris des notes. So we've taken all the notes of all the discussions we've had and potential adjustments and prepared a few slides. So just going to go quickly over a few slides just to list kind of potential places to adjust based on our discussions. And from there, council can make a final decision on their directions to the administration for what type of second draft you wish to have on November 1st. So I'm just going to start by recapping some of the items that we discussed that could impact the taxation level and other adjustments in the budget. So first of all, we spoke about the professional fees and the possibility of finding some savings there. I had mentioned we could potentially pool together or look at it just to find some savings. We have in the past, in the last few years, had some surplus in those accounts when we do combine all the departments together. So maybe at $28,000 there would be available. On the police services side, we mentioned that we do have a DC reserve that we can use in order to minimize the impact of the reduction of revenues from the POA, Provincial Offenses Act. So we could allocate $55,000 towards that department. And we did confirm or receive confirmation from the counties that they're budgeting, so they're expecting that number's not fixed, but an additional $37,000 in revenues from the counties on the POA side. So for a total of, I think that would bring it up to about $68,000 instead of the $31,000 that we had budgeted.
So just to clarify, that's two different, like, it's confirmed, so we are getting 37, so we don't necessarily have to use the full 55. We could spread that 55 out for a few years, because we might be a few years where we're short in our POAs, correct?
That could be, we could use the full 55, or we could use a portion of it. We also do have $150,000 in our OPP reserve in case the shortages do continue over a few more years. Okay. So we would be able to manage that for another 3 years, eventually at that level of revenue.
Okay.
We also spoke about the discretionary budgets from council to bring it back to the 2021 numbers, which were half of the regular numbers. That represents another 12,000. Following our discussion regarding the South Nation invoice, we've transferred $70,000 to the capital budget being funded from asset management, so that can free up another $70,000 there. And there were talks, and I'll have a summary page just at the end of this, just to give council an idea of the bottom line. But there was also talks about increasing 1% of taxes for roads to create that second stream, and to allocate specifically to, I think it was 50 from 400 to 500. So overall, total adjustments would free up $194,000. If we do increase 1% towards roads, we still have an additional $51,000. If we move ahead with all those adjustments, we're reducing the budget at this point in time by $51,000.
Okay.
And I think I have a few more. These are other discussions that were had that don't necessarily impact the taxation side of the budget, but we did touch on the possibility of including in the budget the sale of land or the sale of property from the St. Louis building, and to possibly allocating it towards the payment of the St. Louis Bridge. We're putting it up there, but this doesn't necessarily have to be done at this point in time in the budget. It could happen when we do in fact sell that property. It's a decision that could be made later on down the line, but I just wanted to bring it back.
Okay, Councillor Kanowski.
Could we make the decision now and have an unfunded project associated with that?
We could make that decision now in the sense that if we do budget for that revenue and to pay this percentage of that bridge, worst case scenario is that we wouldn't sell it, and at that point in time, it would mean that we don't have that $100,000 in 2022, but we could always start the payments in 2023. That would just delay the payment by a year. It wouldn't be an issue.
Okay.
So my thoughts on that is that we could plan that for the roads already, and then just have that as a plan moving. Plus, it gives us enough time to get that list of.
Yeah, I think that's we could go that route, and like we're not picking another road at this point. We're just going to say, Monsieur Bourgon, when he brings his second stream list, then it'll be the next one on the list type thing. There'd be a potential $100,000 to go, if it's a single, if it's a smaller project, then it gets done right away. If not, it'd be like what we're proposing. It could be a loan payment for a number of years. Okay.
So there were also talks about the hazardous waste pickups to have 1 day or two. There was a question about, I think, $30,000 in user fees that could potentially be impacted there. I'm not sure if that represented a decrease in the user fee or not. Maybe it's
Yes, it would represent a decrease of about $4 to $5 in the user fee for the waste management portion.
Could we, I'm just throwing it out here, because I know Councillor Saucier and the Environment Committee added an extra $20,000. Could we show that as a line item there? Like, it's a user fee, but could we keep that 4 or 5 or this $30,000 and just create a new line item for, say, tree planting? Is that possible?
It could be possible if it's a direction from council to use the user fee program for our waste program towards trees. So it would be a council decision if you want to.
I mean, it's either a reduction in the fee, or or we're taking it from taxation if we decide to go that route. But Councillor Janowski?
So I would think that something like that might be an opportunity to look at once we get a pricing for a one-ticket item at the transfer station. Maybe that's something that we can use those.
There's that possibility.
Yeah, it might be a part of it. It might be. I don't doubt it would cover it. But certainly take a big chunk out of it.
Okay. Councillor, Mr. Lidzik?
Back to the big fee. You could have maybe some vouchers available. You purchase, let's say, $10,000, $20,000 here in the township or electronically, and if somebody makes a request for a voucher for a reduction at 10% discount or whatever, then we give out the voucher. It's got cash value, and we keep track of who requests what. And you can't request one every week, but I think we understand that not everybody will go there and leave garbage there. So there may not be a need to buy one voucher for everybody, but there might be a need to have vouchers available, and if you make a request, then you get the $10 or whatever the voucher you get.
The only problem is it's not really a user fee, right? In the sense that if we use money from user fees, it's not a user fee because everybody's paying for maybe, 100% of the population is going to pay this fee for maybe 20-30% of the people that are actually going to go to the transfer station. Councillor Janowski?
If it's a discount and it's available to everyone or something, where I'm not sure if there's another way to look at it, but how would that be different than, say, planting trees that one could argue, and I know that we can argue that everyone benefits from that, but it doesn't directly benefit every resident.
Yeah, I would disagree with that statement.
Just agree.
Councillor Alain?
I like the separate line item idea for the 30,000 and whether we use it for the hazardous waste or we're not going to use it this year for the extra leaf and whatever to pick up because we're thinking in 2023 having the green bin. So, but I like the idea of the 30,000 there, and whether we do just say, okay, well then this year it's the hazardous waste day or something else. I don't agree that the tree planting should be in the garbage recycling pickup. I think that's a separate line item. I think that's outside of a user fee. I think that's taxation.
Right.
So, but I do like the idea of separating out this as a separate fee, and we can identify that and what that, that 30,000, that's $4 as part of that $212 fee, so that we can see exactly what it is. And in fact, you probably do have both hazardous waste, like all the hazardous waste pickup in one line, and that says it's $8. And if we decide that we want to only do one that year, then it's only $4 as an example.
From, I know we had talked about separating SNC in the past and OPP. I know the garbage fee is a little bit different because it's just 2 lines. I'm not sure how, is it worth the additional work to separate that line?
I don't think it's a lot of work. I think it's more a question of the invoice being very, a lot of information on there already. Like it's very detailed and crowded, if you will.
Okay.
So, but I mean, it definitely is possible to add a line and to separate it into 2 fees. That wouldn't be an issue. I just don't know how it would look.
Yeah, it would be garbage is $90 or whatever it is, this, and then hazardous waste would be this line, third line.
Yeah. I mean, I think it's important for the residents to know what goes into that fee, like all components of it, and to be completely transparent as much as we can. I think that was the biggest concern. I think Mr. Lidzik can probably attest to it. When we first implemented it, there was no breakdown. The people didn't see any type of breakdown, or we had to create the breakdown for them. And I think that alleviated a lot of questions and concerns about, well, what's this money going to? What's this, So I think to have that breakdown is key, and I think that will make people better understand what we're paying or what they're paying.
Mr. Goodman?
I can maybe propose that I think we could look into it on the invoicing side, and maybe something that would be simpler, or not necessarily simpler, but clearer, would be to have kind of a separate, not necessarily a pamphlet, but maybe a breakdown sheet where we are talking about the different. I know there's been requests regarding the OPP invoice as well, which we have no control over, but it's included in that general taxation. So maybe that's something we can include with the tax bill that kind of breaks it down a bit more.
We can look at different.
Yeah, we can have a look at options.
Just to come back to the hazardous waste, reminding Mr. Bourgogne, we are looking at an increase in the user fees, right? So what was it? What were we going up from?
Well, we will be at 212.
And currently we are at 196 or 98.
Yeah, 196 currently.
196.
Yeah.
So we're looking at We're looking at almost 10% increase for the garbage and recycling. So this $30,000 will save us, $4.50 roughly. So we'd be looking. So it's to know: do we want to include do we want to keep the second day, or do we want to reallocate those funds somewhere else? Councillor, please, Councillor Associate.
Moi, je pourrais suggérer comme quoi qu'on essaye d'avoir seulement une l'année prochaine à l'automne, vu qu'on a eu 2 jours là. On a vu qu'il y a eu une grosse réduction quand même dedans. Continuer puis je sais qu'il y a eu de la promotion de fait quand il y a d'autres places pour le faire. Si on s'aperçoit l'année prochaine que, même avec 12 mois, qu'il y a encore un gros problème comme qu'il y a eu l'année passée, on pourra réévaluer. Mais que là, on l'a essayé 2 fois, puis que
La recommandation, c'est de la couper sur le 4 décimètres. Okay. Councillor Associate?
Thank you. I understand where you're coming from, Monsieur Bourgogne, to save that money. But again, it was a request by many residents last year in the budget and previous years, and then it was a recommendation from the Environment Committee to add the second day. And again, I just feel this year wasn't a good year to base it on. Based on the fact that we canceled spring pickup, I think a lot of people just unfortunately threw their stuff out, and it ended up in landfill. And then we had the 2-day event, and it just wasn't that successful to have 2 days back to back. I think, spring and fall, because I don't know how many people ask me, why do I have to hold on to this for a whole year? In my garage, I have nowhere to put it. And so that was one of the reasons why that recommendation came forward. I will live with one once a year, but, that's just where it originated from, and it was just what I heard from a lot of residents was, I don't have the storage space, I don't want to hang on to this, I'm throwing it in the garbage.
Okay, so we got one-on-one. What are you guys looking for?
For me, so if we were to do it again, we would do what, in May and in October, something like that. And I'm just thinking volume, right? Like, so we're going from October to May. What's that type of volume? Then you're going May to October. It's not, there's a shorter period of time there. So is there going to be the volume that justifies the cost to do a second one in that short window? I think at this point, maybe it's the timing of it that we do differently, and maybe it's not October. Can you do it in July? So there's more of a gap going forward, and then maybe the next one is actually in May, and then you kind of rotate it around so you get a full, not necessarily a full year every time, but you're getting like 9 months worth, and then you go back 9 months, and then you're doing it so that you're capturing the most amount of time, but you're still not making, the residents still aren't holding on to it for that full year. So maybe we play with the timing of it, and maybe that's more successful at that point. Because I think May is a little quick, and then October to me would be very quick after the May one. So maybe it's just moving the timing, and but only do one next year.
Okay, Councillor Kanofsky?
Yeah, I'm in line with the one. I think that in the fall is good. That's when people change the oil on most of their equipment. That's when, I think that's, and the numbers kind of demonstrated. I agree with Councillor Saucier that it may be a little bit early to judge based on everything else that's going on. But I think one of the things that we've done well is promoted recycling, paint cans and stuff with our signage, electronics with our signage, and even now it's pointing out for the electronics. Like, to me, I think that helps, and so I'm happy with one.
Okay, Mr. Bourgon, anything to add?
I like Councillor Lavigne's suggestion. Obviously, that will go according to the ability of Drainall to do those collection. Another option for council for that 30,000, if the decision is made to maintain to 1 day, it could be put in reserve for the purchase of green bin toward next year. That could be another option for council, being the same user fee for the same waste management program.
Okay. That's another option. Hey?
I like that idea.
Okay. So I think you guys, everybody okay with that? So we'll keep the increase. We'll keep the increase to go to 212 and creating the reserve for the green bin. I just want to point out, I did have a phone call actually from a local business who collects paint cans, and had contacted me to say, who are you guys using? Because I got all these paint cans that are coming in, and now I have to get rid of them. So I'm not sure if there's a legal responsibility for them to take them, but at one point in time, companies might say, this is a cost we don't want to incur anymore. Obviously, it's to their benefit. They sell the paint, they take the old paint cans back, but Mr. Bourgon?
Well, to detail, like I mentioned quickly yesterday, there's a lot of changes in the regulation. So I believe those businesses will get an assistance in the upcoming months for those type of collection.
Good. Okay, so we're okay. Go ahead.
I just wanted to add, if the paint can is totally empty, it can be recycled in your bin. So as long as there's no paint in it. So that's something that residents maybe aren't aware of too.
Yeah, often comes down to education. Okay, so we're okay with we're going down to one hazardous and the 30,000 savings going in a reserve towards the green bin program.
Hopefully it won't be as circus as last year. But,
Yeah. Yeah.
But
no,
We just
but
had
we'll
one
see.
down.
That's why I'm saying.
Go ahead.
yeah, I think though there was another compounding factor to that circus that one year, which was the accident at the curb, which then drove everyone to go the other way, and it was. I mean, I think there was a lot of factors going
It was
on
the
there.
18 month versus a year.
18 months versus a year.
Everybody
accident.
doing renovations during that COVID period.
Yeah, so I think that was an anomaly, you know, so, you know, I think, you know, leave it to staff, I think, to come up with the right timing maybe, and we'll go from there. But I like the idea of the user fee reserved for the green bin, so it cuts that down so they don't have to jump up a large fee in 2023 for that, so.
Maybe just having the bylaw, having somebody assigned to, if it needed to, like, comme on dirigeait la circulation au cas qu'il y a un problème majeur, de juste le mettre en stand-by, tout ça, ça peut être quelque
Quand
chose.
vous avez fait ça, vous avez appelé bylaw ou votre propre staff quand il y a eu un problème. Conseiller?
Yeah, I just want to say, I think this year, and I actually went and I was there with some of my stuff. Probably could have diverted some of that stuff, but Mr. Bougon was telling me, he said, you know, staff were ready to go a little bit earlier. Everyone, you know, they got the backlog out, and I was in and out 5 minutes.
Yeah.
And that was at 8:15 in the morning when it was open. Where the year before at 8:15 you weren't getting in, right? Like you were down the road and you were taking hours. So I think you guys did an amazing job this year getting traffic through, getting people through. I've seen it in the Facebook group chats. You know, they're lining up already, and then all of a sudden 5 minutes later, it's like, oh, I'm done. So you guys did a great job. I have full confidence in that you guys will get this sorted through, and I'm good.
Perfect. On va continuer, M. Godin.
So I just wanted to make sure I get all of the discussion correct. So we're keeping the budget as is.
We're keeping the budget as
is.
is.
Creating a reserve for the
Yeah.
agreement. Donc le prochain point, c'était, je vais vous mentionner juste pour vous informer, il n'y a pas de changement nécessairement à la taxation, mais on va augmenter we're going to increase the community grants and in kind, and we're going to transfer the surplus from 2021 to cover those increases.
Okay.
This is to mention, in relation to that 1% from roads, we're adding the $850,000 for St. Andre, from Route 400 to 500, is that correct? Okay. And from the discussions from today, I think we wanted to touch back on the extension of the sidewalk, which had a cost of $20,000, as well as increase to $50,000 for tree planting. So those were the two items from the discussions and the public requests that we put a star beside.
Okay. So if I remember well, one of the first slides, we had about $50,000.
So go back to it.
Okay. In regards to, we're creating a second stream for shortfall in our roads infrastructure. Is there an advantage? We're seeing, we saw requests for sidewalks, Mr. Bougon. Is there currently, we're taking, I know there's $100,000 in the budget, but that's essentially to patchwork what we currently have. There's not necessarily, to fix those gaps, correct?
Yeah, exactly. So right now, the 100,000 that we're putting in yearly, it's really to maintain and repair the worst sections.
Right.
As you mentioned, we don't have any specific to those, like that good example on St. Well, we don't have a specific reserve or plan to have them in specific years. So we could do something like that. So our roads have a percentage of that sidewalk budget, if I can put it that way, towards putting those links in.
So if I'm hearing where you're going with this, So right now, if we're talking percentage, 2.5% was the number. We've been able to reduce by we could reduce by 194 based on what we've seen, plus the 100 for the sale of the assembly stream. So that's an additional 100. But then we would go up 142, which is 1% to create the second stream. Potentially 50. We have 50,000 there. There's 40,000 in extra requests that we did this morning. So you're kind of around that same number, and then take that 100,000, and instead of putting that into the second stream of roads, we create a stream for sidewalks with that 100,000.
No, I would suggest the 100,000 still goes into the second stream. I'm seeing right now we have $50,000.
Yeah.
I see that if we want to we can do the 20,000 for the trees. The 30,000 could create a stream for sidewalks. We have a $20,000 project right now, $10,000 additional in infrastructure for sidewalks, but we could use, that could be moving forward, could go towards building those links. So if we have for example, like the road, we have a $150,000 sidewalk that we want to create because there's a missing link. Well, that $30,000 we're putting in this stream could be a 5-year payment for that one project.
Okay, so only 30,000 into a stream for sidewalks, and 242,000 for the second stream of roads, which mean we could do, maybe not just 800,000, maybe it could be 1,500 next year. We could do multiple roads.
Yeah, exactly.
Okay.
Does that make sense? Does that make sense?
Yeah, I'm okay with that. I have another point I wanted to bring to it.
Yeah, go ahead.
I just need clarification. Just go back to our infrastructure fund deficit. So we have exceeded our expectation or our target by over 200,000 to this point. I just want to confirm that infrastructure deficit, that 200,000, we are ahead of our plan to reduce that deficit. Are there opportunities in being ahead of our target to use some of that money ahead of time in dealing with some of these infrastructure challenges? That's a question. Does that make sense?
When you say infrastructure challenges, you mean other roads that aren't on the list? Right, because the extra funds are already dealing with the challenge because we're doing roads faster than they would have been. Like the roads that are being done for 2022, some of them could have been in 2023, 24 if we've been sticking to the plan and we had not increased. So we're actually moving ahead.
Yeah, basically I just want to confirm what Mary just said. So that's what we going over the goal. That's kind of what's been happening and specifically for roads, because there was that 1% increase in 2020 and again in 2021. So we've kind of increased the level of service, or I guess you could say that, or we've added some more roads into the plan for roads. So we have been taking advantage of those opportunities as we made those increases.
Yeah.
So if I understand correctly, what we're saying is that 200,000 that we're now ahead, or 200,000 that we're ahead of schedule, is really thanks to our 1% that we've been doing. So it's not, so we are already utilizing it.
Right. I mean, and this 1% or this potentially 240,000 additional that we're speaking of right now would put us even more ahead. That being said, we still have to be cognizant of the fact that our annual requirement has been based on that $4.4 million that we've been reporting to council since 2019. So when we do our asset management plan in 2023 with updated condition assessments, that number could go up, could go down, but it's going to be revised for sure.
So at this point, I think what we've been talking about with Councillor Lorraine, I think it'd be a good idea for just to make sure that everybody on council is up to speed on exactly what that is. I think I understand it, but I'd like to make sure that maybe we can put it down on screen so that we have a big picture understanding of it. Is that fair? Can we do that?
Yep, Mr. Gladani, if we were to give you guys 10-15 minutes, could you put just something on the slide so it's clear for everybody?
regarding the deficit?
No, like
No, there is no deficit. No, so what I think would be a good thing to say is like everything that we've kind of
Yeah.
summarized here. It'd be nice to get a summary like you have now, but which details exactly what is the tax increase percentage-wise? Where is that allocated? Are we, I'd like to be able to get that, and I think it's important for us to have that clarity. So exactly.
Yeah, I agree. In 10 minutes we can do that, but I just want, before we do that, there is one thing I want to clarify with council as well, regarding, because we touched on it, but we didn't really, I think now we're confirming it, but I just want to make sure we are, regarding the sale of the 10 building. Because if it is council's intent that the proceeds from that sales be allocated towards that second stream, I would recommend that we do include it in the budget right now.
Yes. Well, we're
To
paying.
pay the loan.
To pay the loan and for that to be reallocated to the second stream.
Yes.
Yeah, so I would recommend that we do that now if that is the intention. That way we don't need to come back when we will still come back to the sale.
100%.
Ça fait pour notre terre.
So, yeah, like we're talking about $100,000 payment, right? But if this sale is different than the amount to cover the bridge, it might only be $75,000 that's able to go into that fund, or
Right.
80, or
It's like an unfunded.
right. It's not exactly.
Exactly. So when we do have the specific number that will come up, we'll come back to council for sure to make the required adjustments. So it might be wise not to allocate we can allocate the additional amount to the stream without necessarily adding projects right now
Right.
to the capital project. I would even go as far as to say that maybe that $100,000 could be added to the 142 to pay down that 850 that we've added faster in 4 years instead of 6. But that's up to council.
That's one option. Once the sale of the building,
We can decide.
we can just clarify which one, but that's fine. As long as we all agree that the sale is going towards paying off a loan and ultimately ends up in the second stream of the roads. Someone can say that.
C'est ça, si je comprends bien, justement, en mettant dessus, que ce soit le montant que ça veut, si c'est 100 000 ou si c'est 75, ça peut être mis là-dessus, puis au lieu de mettre 140 000, parce que là, parce que c'est 800 000 le projet, qu'au lieu de 140 000, que là, ça va être additionné, disons, pour faire un chiffre facile à 100 000, ça va être 240 000 qui vont aller sur ce projet-là. Et comme tu dis, au lieu de prendre 5 ans, ça va prendre 4. Puis, au lieu d'avoir un nouveau, ça va être juste comme ça. Ben, quand lui est payé, on peut en remettre un autre dans le stream plus vite. Puis, c'est ça.
Ça, c'est un option potentiel. You want to add something?
Well, just to talk about, is it 142 or is it the full 240 that's going towards concession area? Je pense que quand on va revenir avec la liste du deuxième stream, on peut avoir cette discussion-là pour que le conseil peut décider comment exactement
On va essayer de voir le 1%. C'est pas dur.
Oui, les 52 000, c'est 1%.
On a trouvé des coupures pour 1%, mais on le remet pour payer le deuxième stream.
Oui.
OK.
C'est ça, c'est 140 000.
Le 140 000, l'étienne brûlé. Mais on a dit que ce 140 000 là, c'est pour le chemin Saint-André. Mais on a dit, si on a un autre 100 000, M. Bourgon va revenir avec une liste, puis la prochaine rue, c'est la liste. On peut faire une deuxième rue où on paye plus vite, mais on peut avoir cette discussion à ce point-là.
C'est ça.
François Jonas?
Juste pour confirmer que quand on parle du 140 000 pour le deuxième stream, on parle d'un paiement de 140 000 et pas d'un projet de 140 000.
C'est ça.
C'est ça. OK, merci.
François Jonas?
And just so we're all on the same page, that $142,000 payment will initially be for the $857,000 project for St. Andre Road.
Right.
And then any other additional funds that may go into that second stream would be another project, like another separate paving project, or it may pay off that one a little bit quicker, but we're confirming that that is the plan for next year, is that St. Andre stretch.
Yes.
Thank you.
Is that, Mr. Bourgault, that's what you understand? We're good? So would you like 15 minutes just to put that on? Okay, perfect. We'll take a 15-minute. We'll be back at 11:20, maybe a little bit before if we're told it's ready to go. So, Monsieur Godin, you got a new slide for us.
Oui, merci, M. Maire. Donc, ça, on nous a demandé de préparer un diapo qui résume un petit peu les highlights de l'augmentation en bas. Donc, comme on disait, une augmentation de 2,5% de taxes dans ce budget, qui représente des revenus additionnels pour 356 000. On voit ici qu'on a eu 1% de ça qui peut être alloué au complexe récréatif. Il y a aussi un autre pourcent qui est la décision de paver le chemin Saint-André au bout de 6 ans, donc des paiements de 52 000 par année pour 6 ans. La création the creation of a second stream for the roads to be able to add some more roads to our paving plan, which presents about 0.7%. And there was also the new sidewalk stream and tree planting that we just discussed, some minor increases there. So obviously, there's a lot more activity in the budget. These are just a few key highlights, but we can see that the 2.5% increase is going towards some important projects, and that growth is also helping to sustain our increase in operational costs.
Right, because when you add these up, it's actually 3%.
Exactly.
So we're taking some of the growth to
That's correct.
Say that.
Can I just ask for, maybe just, can I just ask for changing to the wording here for, in these, I only say that because the 142 for the St. Andre is actually the creation of the second stream for paving.
It's just the
Or
first
roads.
road in the
And that's
train.
just the first road of that program.
Right.
And then the second, where it says road second stream, I would say additional second stream money or something like that, because, and it may not be a full 100,000, but I just want to make sure that we understand the same thing. That's the first 142 is the creation of the second stream, and then the one below it is
In addition to
additional second stream funding.
Yeah, we'll be able to work on the wording for the
Does that make sense?
And that,
Say, Councillor Janowski, we'll see if
Là, je voulais clarifier quelque chose parce que là, je suis plus sûr que je suis sur la même page. Le Saint-André, c'est un morceau qui est sur notre plan en ce moment?
No.
No, exactement. So that is a second stream, but I thought our second stream was to address that when we were wanting to put a 1% in our roads, like to keep catching up. I thought the second stream was for roads like Saint-André. And so now, I thought that was the plan. Am I missing something?
Sir, that is the
I
plan.
think you're confusing it.
So the 1% that we've been adding year after year for the last, Mr. Gooding, 2 years. 2-3 years, that's been going into the existing infrastructure fund.
That's happening anyways. It's just not highlighted.
We're not doing it this year.
Mr. Gooding, the 1% we've been adding traditionally is not going, it's going into the creation of the second stream this year.
Right. So the 1% increase from 2021 and from 2020 are still there. They're in the, like you said, the regular infrastructure fund.
Yeah.
So they're still maintained there, and that already allowed us to add some more roads to the paving plan.
Right.
The way I understood the intentions for the second stream is that we keep on adding some roads. This year increasing by a total of $242,000 here. Yes, that $142,000 is locked for payments on Saint-André for 6 years, but after those 6 years, that those funds are still going to be in there. They're still going to be coming in every year, permitting us to do some of the roads as well.
In the second street. Right. So we're still adding to infrastructure, but we're not adding to the infrastructure fund. The first stream this year, we're adding it to the second stream.
Because I thought we were adding another 1% to the main list, and we were creating this second stream, and Saint André was going to be the first project on that.
The other option is the $100,000 additional. Instead of putting it in the second stream, you could put it in the first stream if you want to do it that way.
I just want to make sure we're all on the same page, because that was my understanding, obviously wrongfully, but that was my understanding.
I just want to reassure council that the initial list is still being taken care of. We don't require tax increases to take care of the list that was included in the paving plan, because we were already at an investment level to sustain, to keep on replacing those or rehabbing those.
I'm happy with that. So we're, like, really what we're doing is we're adding a new stream. We're putting 242,000 or 243,000 into that stream to deal with all the roads that are not on the main list. And our first subject area is that.
That's correct.
Thank you.
C'est puissant?
Moi, juste une suggestion, ce serait comme l'autre 100 000 de 0,7%, je ne mettrais pas un pourcentage, je l'enlèverais, puis je mets comme tout bien un PS, que s'il y a la vente, que ça va aller là, mais pour expliquer le 2,5, j'aimerais voir comme justement le 1%, c'est que c'est le 10, c'est le complexe. OK, l'autre, ça serait le point 3, fait que le point 2, c'est vraiment l'augmentation régulière qu'on a de notre budget. C'est ça? Parce que le point 7 ne compte pas, parce que ça, c'est si on a avec la vente. Donc,
OK, le point 2 pour le nouveau sidewalk.
Oui.
So, le point 2, on augmente le tree planting pour 0,1%. So, c'est 2,3% là-dedans.
C'est comme c'est 0,3. Donc, l'autre point 2 de l'augmentation, c'est une augmentation de notre budget régulier qu'on le met.
Ben, même pas, parce qu'on met 0,7 dans ce scénario-là. Monsieur Godin?
Je pense que je comprends ton point, mais je veux quand même clarifier que le 100 000 envers le deuxième stream, c'est quand même une augmentation de 100 000 parce que c'est un 100 000 qui n'était pas au budget de 21. C'est parce qu'on l'avait ajouté par rapport au paiement du pont Saint-Joseph. Mais maintenant, si on sait qu'on va lever les montants de la vente de Tingoulé à Saint-Joseph, c'est vraiment à l'extérieur du budget. Le 100 000 qu'on ajoute ici, c'est un ajout au taxe. C'est un choix que vous avez de l'ajouter ou pas.
Ben, moi, c'est juste que quand j'arrive pour l'expliquer à mes des citoyens, dire OK, ben c'est 2,5. C'est pour ça que je dis le 0,7, c'est pas de l'argent qui va rentrer sur notre augmentation, ça va être avec la banque, qu'elle vienne de d'où ça veut.
Vraiment, le 0,7, qu'est-ce que c'est? C'est 0,5, tu peux dire ça fait partie de l'augmentation, puis 0,2, ça vient de la croissance.
Non, pas du tout, parce que ça tu bien expliquer différemment.
Si je comprends bien, conseiller Brisson, puis je pense que je suis d'accord avec vous, c'est que dans le fond, le 100 000 qu'on dit, le 0,7, dans le fond, on ne veut pas que ce soit une augmentation de taxes. Ça devrait venir de la vente d'Étienne Boulay. Fait que dans le fond, ça ne devrait pas faire partie du taxe parce que c'est un projet, unfunded project until we sell Étienne Boulay. C'est ça?
But what the discussion was is that the sale of the building is paying off the loan, and the 100,000 represents the loan.
But we already have that budgeted.
Eh?
That loan payment is already budgeted in the current budget.
As part of the 2.5% increase.
Yes, as part of the 2.5.
Oui.
So what we're doing is we're taking the loan payment.
Yeah.
So you could change, technically you could say the $100,000 is not for the road second stream, it's for the bridge.
Yeah.
And then we're going to move it to, once the building sells, then we're going to move it to that second stream.
Ben, moi, c'est que je voyais. Mais c'est que je voyais pas de mettre un pourcentage dedans. parce que c'est de l'argent qu'on va remettre sur un autre projet, que techniquement, c'est pour ça qu'on va avoir une possibilité peut-être de remettre de l'argent dedans comme un 100 000, mais que le pourcentage, moi, d'après que je le vois, c'est justement, on n'a rien qu'un 0,3 d'augmentation du budget général.
Non,
C'est pas comme ça.
Il y en a pas.
Conseiller Barrett?
Yeah, I think, and maybe we asked something a little too much or too quickly right now for Monsieur Godin to give to us. And let's remember, the reality was the budget came in at 2.5%. 2.5, which included the 1% for the rec complex, which included the $100,000 for the bridge payment. So full stop there. So that was 2.5%. They found, or we've negotiated and discussed over 2 days to take out $194,000, which is about 1.5% almost, we'll say. 1.3. So 1.3% we took out. So that goes to 1.2% of a tax increase was our starting point essentially this morning. What we've said is we're going to take 1% for the second stream, and we're starting with St. Andre Road. So now we're up to 2.2%, and we're saying we're going to add the new stream for the sidewalk, and we're going to add the tree planting. There's 3%. There's 0.3% right there. There's your 2.5%. The additional stream, the 100,000, that was already in the budget under something else. So I wouldn't even put the 0.7 there because it's kind of confusing on with this slide. But we know that this is something that we've done today, as we've said, we're taking that $100,000 payment, and if the building sells, we're going to put whatever amount of money it sells for onto the bridge, and that whatever payment is left, if it takes the whole $100,000, then great. We move the $100,000 to the second stream of roads, and then if it doesn't, if it's $75,000 and we need $25,000 to pay the rest of the payment, then we take that, but that 75 then goes to the street. That's what we've done, right?
Ouais. C'est pour ça que je pense que c'est ça que tu as mentionné, puis j'essayais de dire que le voteur, je l'enlèverais de 0.7 de dedans, puis de dire, s'il y a la vente, il va y avoir du surplus, mais qu'il n'y a pas de pourcentage, il va y avoir un vœu, mais ça, c'est juste de...
C'est comment que tu vas le mettre dans le budget, c'est how you word it, but at the end of the day, ça peut être juste tu pourrais juste le mettre dans le budget comme le paiement du pont reste là, puis quand le rapport vient avec la vente, c'est là qu'on dit.
Exactly.
But whatever is easiest for whatever. But as long as we
We know the direction.
as long as we know the direction. But the problem is if it doesn't sell during our year, it sells. Say it takes longer, and it's the next council that deals with it. We don't want to miss that opportunity to put that $100,000 in.
That's right.
Right. So, Councilor Tanasa.
Yeah, and I think the good message there is that we are putting up to $243,000 into roads in this budget that's new funding into roads. I mean, that's the positive message. We can say up to 243 because there's 100,000 that may be later, but our plan right now is up to 243,000 new money into roads.
New money into roads and another extra $30,000 into the sidewalks as well, and $20,000 into tree planting.
20,000 into trees.
Yeah.
I think it's good.
And 142,000 towards the rec complex as part of our plan. And it's a 2.5% increase for taxes, which is $44 and change to the average house.
Yeah. With growth comes growing pains and request for more services, so we have to adjust. I think is very reasonable. Any other members of council, anything else to add? Everybody's comfortable with that? Monsieur Godin, Monsieur Leduc, is that the end?
That's all I got.
Monsieur Leduc, I'm sure you have comments, Monsieur Leduc. It's your last one.
Yes. I'll start off by saying to council and staff that I really like the budget process review like we had the last 2 days. I think these discussions have evolved so much in the last 12 years where now we're talking strategic, which is a lot more fun than going line by line like we've done early in my tenure here at the township. I think in this budget there's all kinds of exciting projects. There's a review of delivery of services also. There's efficiency initiatives that are identified here. And we keep responding to the increased requests from the growth of our population, so that's quite positive. Also, you've seen and discussed the many initiatives that are supporting local businesses. I think that's something that comes up regularly on our satisfaction surveys, which is done. And I think you've been convinced that staff are continuing to apply for grants and are seeking partnerships, so we're trying to find more money also that's not coming from taxpayers' pockets. So I think that's very good. I was quite impressed with the budget presentation, and more so the supporting documents, which keep getting better and more and clearer, and provides more information to council when reviewing your budget. I think that's well appreciated. And I think my final line would be that I am really proud and impressed by my management team, how they presented it to council, how they worked on this budget, and how they kept responding professionally and I think fully to the questions that councils were asking. So I'd like to thank my staff for doing that, and to Mr. Godin and to Mr. Auger and all the finance department that supports and creates this document. I thank you so much because you've relieved me a lot the last 6 months of this pressure. But I think you're doing a very good job on this, and I think council's in good hands regarding how we proceed with the budget process. I think we should be secure about that. So I will be missing. I have to say that I'll be missing doing the budget process, but certainly I think it was a good positive budget for 2022.
Thank you very much, Mr. Leduc. Well, we do have chairs for the public, so you're more than welcome to come by next year and have a seat. You might be a company for other individuals that come by.
Et merci to the clerks who put up with us for 2 days.
Yeah, and all the technology they had to deal with and the issues at the beginning. Job well done, everybody. I think that this is another budget that council can be very proud of. Does it meet everybody's demands and requests? Probably not, but we'll never be able to meet everybody's demands. We're moving forward in we're incredibly well positioned as a township and as a community. So, merci beaucoup tout le monde. With that, if there's no further comments, then confirming bylaw, that bylaw 2021-104 being a bylaw that can confirm the proceedings of the Council of the Corporation and Township of Russell at special council meeting held on October 21st, 2021 be read a first, second, and third time and passed. Need a mover and a seconder, please. Moved by Conseiller Brisson, seconded by Councilor Janoski. All those in favor? Opposed? I should make you guys call your names up just for the heck of it.
Not so fast.
The next regular public meeting of council will be held on Monday, November 1st, 2021, and that's when the second / hopefully final draft should be coming to council that evening.